Hello friends, I'm Kayla. At the beginning of the month, Goodreads put out a list called 10 years of horror hits to read this October. And so I just wanted to react to it with you and give you also what my hits would be from each year. I've done reactions just like this over on TikTok a couple times. Goodreads is constantly putting out lists and I love doing reactions to horror picks, which ones I've read, which ones are on my TBR, which ones I think are worth your time. And I thought this time I would do it on YouTube instead of TikTok. I also saw my friend Katie do this. I didn't watch hers because I didn't want to accidentally steal any of the things that she also was saying. So I want to film this so I can go watch hers. I will of course link that one down below for you. Please check it out. I think it's good to get everybody's kind of different perspectives. This one has been in the Goodreads banner for a couple weeks. It just finally changed to another one from Mother Horror called Horror for Newbies. So if the list we're going to go through today is just a bunch of popular things you're like, I've already heard of these, I don't need to know, go check out this list because it's actually got some good more niche picks that you may not have heard of. But because I am currently in my 10 years on BookTube era, apparently Goodreads is doing it alongside me. They want to talk about the last 10 years of reading. So let's do it together. First, actually, maybe I should put a percentage on how much I think I will have read from this list. I only scrolled down to see the first couple because I want to see how many there were. I see that there's 8, so I also made a list of 8 from each year. I'm going to go ahead and say that I have read over 50% of this list. Probably 60, maybe 70. But since we're going 10 years back, I wasn't reading the popular horror coming out in 2015, 2016. So I'm going to say, let's do a bold 70% I have read. Starting with 2015, or no, 2020, wow, where am I? Starting with 2025, obviously the year is not wrapped, but these are the most popular things that have been published so far this year. I have read 4, eventually it will be 5 when I read The Bewitching. I've been putting it off. I would definitely co-sign Witchcraft for Wayward Girls and Buffalo Hunter Hunter and Bat Eater. The first 2 are historical. Historical horror is not always for me, but we've got a witch one and a vampire one, and I think people liking those makes sense. I liked them both. Grady Hendrix definitely isn't for everyone. I truly think though that he's one of the few male authors I trust with something like a birth scene, which does exist in this book, and I think it's done pretty tastefully and smartly. I talked about that more in the Literally Dead Book Club live show because this was a book club pick for this year. It was definitely gruesome. I gave it a 4. I also gave Buffalo Hunter Hunter a 4. This is objectively one of Stephen Graham Jones's best. He is my favorite author. It was a little bit long, but 4-star easily. I'm just glad Stephen Graham Jones is getting his flowers. Bat Eater, another book club pick of mine. Glad that it's up here. It was definitely disgusting and it dealt with grief. I think it was well done. As far as the Stephen King on here, I'm not really interested in continuing in this universe. It's been 4 years since a standalone unique horror from him, and I definitely want some more that doesn't exist in this universe. The Lamb and Hungerstone didn't do it for me. I DNF'd both. Hungerstone is more of a soft DNF. I feel like people could convince me to get back into it, but I just don't really care for either of those ones. And then Blood on Her Tongue, I gave a 3, just a classic gothic one. I'm kind of surprised to see it here. I didn't think everyone was obsessed with it. The Bewitching will definitely happen for me though. My picks for 2025. I'm adding another Stephen Graham Jones to the lineup. This is a bind up of 2 stories, both teenage girls dealing with real life issues and the supernatural. It's definitely gorier than his usual stuff, but really fun rides. I'm also going to add Immaculate Conception in here. I think it's a little bit slept on. It's slower for sure, a little meandering, but it deals with art and friendship and coercion and pregnancy. I don't always love a pregnancy book, but there's been 2 this year that were good for me, so that's a bit of a surprise. Spread Me, I think, is a little bit too weird to recommend broadly, but Sarah Gay Lee usually does it for me. It's a parasite making a researcher very horny. Either it does it for you or it doesn't. I would also throw When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I was sure we'd see that in here. It's a really inventive horror after building a fan base with Mary and Nestlings. This I think will win a lot of people over. It's action-packed and wholesome. I gave it 4 stars. And then my wild card pick is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I never thought I'd be recommending a Rachel Harrison. This is a haunted house book, which for me to enjoy feels pretty huge. You'll see a lot of grief-centric stories on my lists as one of my favorite things, and this one was a good one. She lost her mother and her house is possessed. Scrolling down to 2024. Okay, I recognize all of these, which is great. I have read 3 of them. Okay, well, let's go through one by one. Okay, You Used to Live Here, another haunted house horror book that I really, really loved. Definitely understand the hype for that one. You Like It Darker is on my TBR. I don't really get hyped about Stephen King's short story collections, but I'm sure it's gonna be good when I read it. Incidents Around the House, I DNF. That one's not for me. Most childhood-centric horror I don't end up loving. The Eyes of the Best Part I think is fantastic. That one is definitely also on my list. It was sinister with lots of social commentary, but it is kind of a slower one about relationships and stuff. And I just love a reluctant killer kind of story, so that one really worked for me. It's about becoming obsessed with eating eyeballs, kind of at any cost. My Darling Dreadful Thing, it's kind of surprising to see another Joanna Van Veen, just because I don't think of her as a horror author that like everyone's been talking about, but this one is on my TBR. I think I've read the first chapter. I'll continue it someday. That was Joanna Van Veen. Wondering why I was talking shit about her books. I'll check this one out, okay? Diavola is a kind of like vacation gothic horror. I thought it was fine and gave it a 3. Bury Your Gaze, I would definitely recommend. I think it'll be in a lot of people's wheelhouse for horror, not really mine. And then What Feasts at Night is a sequel to What Moves the Dead. Kind of surprising to see a sequel on here. I know this isn't necessarily curated by Goodreads, like it just is the best of the year, but I wonder how they're combining those stats. Is it just most read? It's probably like a mathematical equation of amount of readers since it came out plus the average rating, because obviously sequels are going to get a higher average rating because only the people who are continuing the series are the ones who liked the first one. But I just don't think this series is particularly special. I gave the first book like a 3. It does have 36,000 ratings. Meanwhile, this one only has 15,000. Interesting. Adding on to my 2024 list is The Haunting of Velkwood. This one's maybe more paranormal than horror, but I love a grief angle. Like I said, I love a little bit of romance. I love books that play with time. I love a sapphic story. So it's just the combination of all of these things was perfect for me. I don't think it will be for everybody. Horror movie is also on my personal best list. These are not all recommendations, but you know, if we have similar taste, here you go. I think this one may not deliver for people who have the expectations of a lot of like found footage horror books that have all come out in the last couple years. This is like my favorite that kind of is in that realm. I usually hate that style of book. This one was more about a man's real life in the years after losing a bunch of friends who were involved in this art house movie shoot. It wasn't like during the filming or even because of the filming that he lost them. So it's more like meandering and the characters constantly reminiscing, which I know is not everybody's vibe. I Was a Teenage Slasher, of course, is the most underrated book on my favorites list. People not gagging over this has me still reeling a year later. This is the perfect example of the reluctant killer thing that I was talking about. If you love horror movies, this one is a must. Brat is also on my list. I don't necessarily recommend this one. It's barely horror, barely a ghost story, but it is really nasty. The main character, you're just getting his life and his perspective. This house is like growing plants through all of the little cracks, and he's reading stories left behind by his parents that make him feel kind of weird. He's very unlikable as a main character. Feast While You Can, I would recommend more. It is a slower one. It's a really classic like Kayla pick that is a slow possession story, sapphic, a lot of navigating relationships and small town gossip, but there is a good amount of horror in it. And then Nat Cassidy is going to be my novella pick. I now have 2 spots for Nat Cassidy on my list. This was also a 4-star. It's about a man who goes to a gas station and it gets really gross and weird. Moving down to 2023, look at all those houses. Okay, we have Holly. Again, I'm not really interested in this series from Stephen King. How to Sell a Haunted House was not for me, but neither was The September House. I would recommend both of those though. They have gone over well with people. I don't love a haunted like doll kind of situation. I also don't like how kind of gimmicky, I don't know, The September House, it didn't perfectly balance the like quirky with the horror, but it did for a lot of other people, and the message of that one is really good. There's a lot of metaphors. I gave both of those 2 stars, I think. The Reformatory did make my list. This is definitely a slower historical ghost story dealing with real life horrors, racism, discrimination, imprisonment, and then the supernatural horrors alongside, or paranormal. Monstrilio, so happy to see here, another book club pick of mine. This one is probably one of my most successful. So many people ended up loving it. It's another one that deals with grief. You have a family throughout time who created a new family member, and you're hearing from all of them, kind of unexpected when and where different people pop in and narrate the story. And it's about like the repercussions of creating this monster and the morality around it. Definitely a 5-star for me. Lone Women, I've read. I gave it a 3. This is another historical one. Dead of Winter is on my radar. Like, I don't know. I just need someone to convince me to read it. I don't think Darcy Coates really does it for me, but like I might pick this one up someday. And then Our Share of Night, love to see. It's also on my list. That's a longer one too. Definitely more ambitious than just horror. It's like fantastical. It's one of the only cult adjacent books I've also liked. Would definitely recommend this one. I'm happy to see a translated work on here. My 2023 list, we're gonna add in some young women doing weird shit. That's what 2023 was about for me. Natural Beauty has a wellness spa and a woman getting sucked into that. Mayfly, we have a very opposite main character. If Natural Beauty was a woman who doesn't really know what's going on and is trapped in a situation she didn't really know what she was getting into, Mayfly has the opposite. She is persuading others. She has dark goals, and maybe it doesn't go as far as a lot of people hope with the horror and with like how extreme the cover looks. I like to call it an ice skating horror romance. It will make you uncomfortable, as will my next one, Chlorine. This is a more coming of age in horror. It's about a woman willing to destroy her body to become a mermaid, basically. There's more to it than that, but that's the initial pitch. Vampires of El Norte shouldn't have made this list. Like, I don't think it should have been on this list because it's much more of a romance than I think even her other gothic horror romance books have been. But I love Isabel Cañas. It's barely even about vampires. It's about a love story between two people who survived a vampire attack and like the yearning between them. Knock Knock Open Wide absolutely has to make my list. I think it could have if more people had read it. This is Irish, folksy, about a couple, but also there's another timeline and a strange TV show from childhood that's kind of haunting people. It's definitely a weirder one, but I think with some of the picks here, people who've read these ones could definitely like that one. What kind of readership do we have here? Okay, 36,000 people, 86,000 people, almost 200,000. Let's move to 2022. Okay, we have Hidden Pictures, which I genuinely just did not get the hype for, still continue to not get the hype for. I gave it 2 stars, even outside of like the review discussions that people are having about identity and representation and dog whistling. I just think the book itself, as it stands alone, is kind of dull. We also have What Moves the Dead here, which... yeah, it's like gothic, fungal. The cover is stunning. I gave it a 3. Our Rose Under the Sea, great pick. I think this will be a little low in horror for some people. It's really popped off. Like, so many people pick this up, and I'm surprised by how high the average rating is. It reminds me of the type of horror that I recommend, and the people are like, this was barely horror. It's about a couple. One of them comes back from a deep sea mission, and they have to grapple with how they feel afterwards. And love to see the Hacienda here as well. This one is a romance-centric gothic story, a woman getting into a situation with plenty of social commentary. The Children on the Hill, I gave a 3. I don't think Jennifer McManus for me, but I feel like we'll probably see her like multiple years because I know she's in the Goodreads Choice Awards every year, and this just seems like an amalgamation of Goodreads Choice Award picks. Dead Silence, I also gave a 3. I don't love a lot of sci-fi horror, but there's been a few. Mother Thing, people have tried to convince me to read it. I just, being haunted by your mother-in-law, it doesn't sound like the most intriguing, but like I could pick it up. And then Cursed Bunny, surprised to see here. I guess it has a good amount of readers. Again, love seeing a translated pick from another country. I gave that one a 3. I think the stories were kind of forgettable for me. I do have a short story collection on my 2022 list though, Queer Little Nightmares. Half of it is poetry, and I might honestly like recommend you skip that if you don't love horror poetry. That didn't really do it for me, but the rest is so good, especially if you like creature horror. Give that one a go. I also have a sci-fi horror on my list, one of the only that I've really loved, Leech. This one is about a hive mind. I love an intellectual main character. It's creepy and nasty. It has like a Parasite vibe to it. The rest of my 2022 picks are very much like not horror necessarily, or ones that people are like, what? Kayla, what are you talking about? The Pallbearers Club, Book of the Precious Substance, and The Most Precious Substance, and Daphne. Low in popularity, low in horror, but they have to make my personal list. I think House of Hunger might get a pass. It's still lower in horror, but it looks and sounds more like a vampire story than it actually is. Daphne is just a meditation on anxiety, and you don't really get to know all of the characters. The big bad villain is not, you know, the scariest you've ever met, but I love it. I gave that one a 5. I also give a 5 to Pallbearers Club. This one is for the meta-loving pretentious girlies. And then the book The Most Precious Substance is a book about like sex magic. It's sad, it's sexual, it's odd. It doesn't really fit super well in one specific genre. But that was a good showing for me. 7 out of 8 I have read. Let's see if we can continue. Okay, 8 out of 8. I think this is one of the years that I was doing reading all of the Goodreads nominees in the horror category. So of course I read a lot of the popular ones. I didn't love half of these. The Final Girl Support Group, definitely a popular one, and I guess I get it. It has a 3.5. That's not a super high rating. It was kind of just a mess to me. I liked the vibe. I liked the intent. It's about a group of people who survived like a murder spree independently, and they're getting together to have a support group. I wasn't really into the pace or the character voice. The Last House on Needless Street, this one was a 3. I think the Final Girl Support Group I also gave a 3. This one I get people's enjoyment of because it has a twist, a reveal that you probably don't see coming. To pull that off is successful. I think there's some questionable things about that one. Later, I was gonna say is an underrated one. I think it's obviously not like with the community at large, but the people that I follow, I don't think a lot of people have read and loved this one. It's just a paranormal detective kind of story, and I thought it was really good. I gave it a 4. Slewfoot definitely should be here, a 5 for me. I just love a story where a girl is getting in control of her own life and she makes a deal with this beast. It's got a vengeance angle, so good. My Heart is a Chainsaw, one of my favorites from Stephen Graham Jones. Jade Daniels is just my girl. If you love horror movies, again, you need to be reading Stephen Graham Jones. It is a very slow stream of conscious kind of book. You have to just want to be in the thoughts of this girl who is struggling and is very committed to the way that she sees the world and how she exists in the world. Chasing the Boogeyman, I don't know about this being on a horror list. I gave it a 3, pretty like detective-y. I barely remember it. The Burning Girls, I gave a 4, religious kind of horror. And The Book of Accidents, I gave a 2. I think this one is just too long. It wasn't as inventive and imaginative as I expected based on what everyone else was saying about it. I feel like I've read things like it before and done better. There's a strange boy who infiltrates a family, and it just goes on and on and on and on. My personal list for 2021, a couple of these obviously did make it in there. And then I'm filling out those other spots with When the Reckoning Comes and The Thing Between Us. There's no way I think you like dislike these as a horror reader. I think they're just solid books that most people would enjoy, especially When the Reckoning Comes. This one just needs more readers. It's about ghosts. It takes place on a plantation. The Thing Between Us may be a little bit more niche. It's a man who loses his wife and he's being followed by the physical manifestation of his grief. They both deal with racism and discrimination pretty heavily. Near the Bone is on my list. I don't think it's like the most incredible horror I've ever read, but it really scratched an itch for me at the time. A woman is in a cabin. She's surrounded by many threats. I think that's how I would pitch it. Comfort Me with Apples, I really think is the perfect novella. I think it should be here. It's ominous and weird and has a great explanation. Sorrowland is also on my list. This is about a mother escaping her old life with her children. She's experiencing a metamorphosis. Definitely a strange one. Things have gotten worse since we last spoke. I don't think should have been on this list because I feel like most people who read this, they want it to be far more extreme or it's too extreme for them. Meanwhile, I thought it was great. Just these two people kind of conversing in a chat room and daring each other to do things. I thought it was really interesting. Let's move to 2020. Okay. Oh, I've read all of them again. We have Mexican Gothic, which I definitely understand being here. I only gave it a 3. I would recommend it to most people. And I really think Silvia Moreno Garcia should be credited for kind of in a way changing the landscape of horror at this time and what a lot of people were willing to read this year. But this specific book, a lot of horror readers had primarily or solely read like white male horror authors, and Mexican Gothic getting the attention that it did validly pushed a lot of people into diversifying what they were reading in horror. The Rotting Manor was a perfect atmosphere and it represented what people were going through internally. I think it was objectively good. I got a 3. Tender as the Flesh almost got a 5 from me. This cannibalistic future is just really interesting and dark. The Only Good Indians is not my favorite Stephen Graham Jones. I gave it a 4, but I think it got a lot of people into Stephen Graham Jones. We've read it for my book club, and I'm definitely thankful for that because, again, I love Stephen Graham Jones getting his flowers. It's about people being stalked by this evil entity. Home Before Dark, I'm also happy to see here and being called horror rather than mystery thriller. It is a mix, but I also put this one on my list. We've got a woman going to her childhood home, and we're also reading from her father about what happened in the home. Getting to wonder what is true about the stories was just really successful. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, definitely understand that being here too. It was pretty popular in this year, and yeah, 300,000 readers Mexican Gothic had almost 500,000. That's huge. This one's about, this group of suburban women in the 90s, and a new neighbor comes to town. They think he's a vampire. It had a couple scenes that genuinely scared me, so maybe I should have given it a higher rating, but it's always been a 4 in my mind. If It Bleeds, a short story collection, it's like fine, it's just here because it's Stephen King. Ring Shout is a fantastic novella about the KKK being literal demon beasts and the group of people who are taking them down. That one was a 5, and I don't often like my horror to be that action-packed. And then The Hollow Places is also on my list. This is T. Kingfisher's best, in my opinion. It's a small town. This woman is encountering weird things in this family business residence, and it's like the reality that she's connecting to, learning about. Kind of cozy, kind of scary. My other picks for 2020, I threw The Year of the Witching in here. It's about a young woman going into a forest she's not allowed to, and there's a lot of religious control in this community. I also put Catherine House, which I would recommend less, but it is this woman who gets stuck in this school. She agrees to go with the promise of getting everything she's ever wanted. It's very fever dream. She's pretty apathetic, and it's just like a strange meandering through the story. And then my other pick, When No One Is Watching. This is a thriller suspense with horror vibes. So if we're calling Home Before Dark horror, I think we could also call this one horror. It's about gentrification, conspiracy, and there's a little bit of romance in it. And then I'm also putting Night of the Mannequins because I liked this one more than the Stephen Graham Jones on this list. It's about a group of friends who play a prank in a movie theater. Is it supernatural or is there a killer? That's the question. It was so good. Scrolling down to 2019, I've only read 3 and I didn't like any of them. Okay, we've got The Institute, which I guess should technically be on my TBR. It's kind of like an X-Men story, right? I don't know if it really sounds like something I would love. I don't know why things aren't popping up anymore when I hover over them. I can't see how many readers they have. A Certain Hunger was not for me. I can just put it on the list of like cannibalism books that everyone else goes gaga over that I don't really understand the hype for. Salt Slow is a short story collection by Julia Armfield that if you haven't read Our Wives Under the Sea yet, I would recommend you pick it up, give it a try, see if you like her writing. I can see how a lot of these stories inspired Our Wives Under the Sea. I don't think it's really worth reading if you've already read that novel. And then Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky I just think was too long. Again, it's about like a child though, and I don't always love, again, the children. Centric Books, The Invited is a Jennifer McMahon I don't really know that much about because I've read 2 of her things and didn't really care to learn about any others. Intercepts is a sci-fi, I think about like an experiment in a lab, and like the experiment follows one of the employees home or something. That one you could convince me to read maybe. And then we have a Christina Henry and a Joe Hill that I'm not very interested in. So that's that. My 2019 list doesn't include any of these. And in fact, you are seeing this correctly. There are blank spots in mine. I do not have 8 that I loved in 2019. So I don't have anything from 2019 that I put 2 YA books in here. I didn't want to have YA on my list, but here are some. Wilder Girls and Other Words for Smoke. Those were 5 stars for me. Wilder Girls is like Lord of the Flies, but sapphic, and Body Rot. Sign me up. Other Words for Smoke I just think is so good and more people need to read it. It's about a house that burns down and this dark force. It's fantasy, horror, and it's sapphic. Really good. And then I also put Tinfoil Butterfly and The Need on here, which are 2 horror books, 2 of the few horror books that do have young children at the forefront. And The Need about motherhood that I don't always love reading. For some reason, these ones just did it for me. The exhausted motherhood stories aren't always my taste, but The Need was just so perfectly weird. It has a really low average rating. Something shows up in her house that like messes with her mind. And then Tinfoil Butterfly, we have a woman who goes to this small town and runs into a child, and they're suddenly on a race to survival, I guess you'd call it. And then of course I have Bunny on here, which I guess I am surprised I can't see the readership anymore. I tried refreshing, I don't know why it's not working. I would say Bunny probably has a higher readership than a lot of these, but probably quite a lower average rating. So I'm not shocked to not see it here, but I think it should be here because obviously like hi, I'm the #1 fangirl of Bunny, but like nothing else that Mona Awad has done. Side note, there's no other Mona Awad on this list. Interesting. I think with the mathematical equation, that explains why Bunny is not here, because over the years it has gotten a lot more readers, but I don't think people love it as much as me and Katie and other people. It's like dark academia, an MFA program, girls doing experiments, there's rabbits. It's dark and it's weird. Let's scroll to 2018. Okay, I have read 5 of these, and a couple are also on my list, even though I didn't give them the highest rating. So The Outsider is not, The Outsider was fine. It was a 3. Moon of the Crusted Snow, I'm kind of surprised to see here. It has 40,000 readers. Okay. Yeah, The Outsider has 400,000, but I'm happy to see it. It's also on my list. I loved it. It's about a First Nations community being infiltrated and people not knowing what's happening to their like power source. They have to navigate each other and strangers, and I really liked it. Foe I also put on my list, even though I only gave it a 4. It's a really interesting concept. I wish that I got by the reveal in here. It's about a married couple and one is selected to go on this trip, basically. The Hunger is not for me, historical horror. Then we have another Darcy Coates and Dracula, which is I'm not really interested in. Jawbone, I could be convinced to read. Maybe I should have that on my TBR. I've seen a couple people read it lately. I feel like this one doesn't have a very high average rating. Okay, it's a 3.69. What does Bunny have? Oh, a 3.47. I don't even know what Jawbone is about. Little Eyes is also on my list. It's a novel that's kind of a short story collection. We have these stuffed animals that have cameras in them, and we're reading stories from people who are watching through the cameras, people's lives, and people who are on camera being watched by people. And it was a really fascinating experience. Jawbone, people who are practically sisters. They go to an academy. Dangerous Rituals. Perhaps I should read that one. But first, let's go through the rest of the things on my 2018 list. I have The Cabin at the End of the World, of course, because Paul Tremblay, that's my guy. Existential apocalypse, a family being confronted by people convinced that the world is going to end. And then Nana, I need you guys to get on. This is the perfect, like, squeamish, uncomfortable horror. An old woman gets closer and closer to this family. Kind of fairy tale folksy horror that I really liked. The House in the Dark in the Woods and Follow Me to Ground. They're both under 200 pages. The House in the Dark in the Woods is a woman out in the forest gathering berries for her family. Someone is after her, or is she lost? We don't really know. So fever dream and good. And Follow Me to Ground is about a woman and a father, her father, who bury people in the town to heal them. The town has supported them throughout the years until now. 2 years to go. Let's go to 2017. I have read 4 and 2 are on my TBR. Her Body, Other Parties also made my list. I feel like people don't talk about this one enough. Short stories, but really a mix of imaginative stuff and familiar kind of stories. Sleeping Beauties is in my TBR closet. I feel like I should read it, but I don't know if I really want to. It's just kind of sitting there. Into the Drowning Deep I've read. I gave a 3. Scary mermaid story. Definitely understand that one. I love Shauna Maguire. This is not my favorite of Shauna Maguire's stuff. Writing Under Mira Grant, I don't think I love her stuff as much. Happy to see Gwendy's Button Box here because I also have it on my list. The rest of the series, not so much. But this one is just so interesting. A device that you can make bad things happen with. It was a novella. I really liked it. Should have been a standalone. The Silent Companions, I don't actually know that much about, but I've seen it. I don't think I ever knew it was horror because it's like historical fiction. I think I saw it because this author's coming out with something new. She's sent to see out her pregnancy at a crumbling estate. A silent companion that bears a striking resemblance to Elsie herself. Okay, someone convinced me to read that. Also convinced me to read The Changeling. I've read other Victor Laval. I just never went back to this one. It's about a changeling. Do I need to know much more? Mapping of the Interior, also on my list. Another Stephen Graham Jones is fantastic. This is a novella. It's about a young Indigenous boy seeing something wrong in his house. Things We Lost in the Fire is a short story collection I have in my TBR closet. I've read multiple Mariana Enriquez. This one I will get to eventually. And then as far as my list, yeah, I have 2 spots completely not filled in because 2017, I haven't read a ton from this year, but maybe I could fill in those spots once I read the couple other things. On my list, we have The Murders of Molly Southbourne. This is another novella series. It's sci-fi horror, and it's about a woman who has to like kill her own clones. I also have The Grip of It, which is a haunted house story, really low average rating, wouldn't recommend it to everybody. It's more like about this mundane relationship between these two people, but the house is changing and it's kind of reflecting their own mental state as they deal with stuff in real life. I thought it was really good. And then I also put Fever Dream on my list because I've been talking about books that feel like fever dreams. This is the Fever Dream. It's so hard to explain and pitch. It's like a psychological horror about a woman and a young boy and the stories they're telling each other. And then finally we have 2016. I have read 3 from here. Oh my god, this is the first time on this entire list there's a book I haven't heard of. The last one, The Last Days of Jack Sparks. I have no idea what that is. I'm thinking of ending things. I also put on my list, I grabbed a different cover than they're putting here. I think it's happened a couple times now. I gave this a 3, but for lack of having a ton of options from this year anyway, I decided to include it. And also it's something I recommend a lot. There's 2 people in a car on a trip and they and we uncover something strange between them. The Fireman doesn't interest me. Lovecraft Country doesn't interest me. The Fisherman is really following me around. It's not even on my TBR, but people keep recommending it, like in person people, like real life people, as well as internet people. Perhaps this should just be a Literally Dead book club pick and we should all just read it together. I think it's cosmic horror and it aligns with other things that I've liked. The Ballad of Black Tom, cosmic vibes. I liked that one. It's a short story. I don't remember a ton about it though. It's about a curse and a guitar. I think that's what I remember. We have another Darcy Coates. All of her haunted house titles kind of sound the same to me. Fantastic Land, I think is quite good for it coming out like almost 10 years ago. Again, though, it's not gonna be for everybody. It's about the aftermath of a storm. It traps these fair workers. It was kind of ridiculous. Like they all very quickly created groups and started harming each other. And it's told via interviews after the fact. I thought it was interesting. This one, oh, it was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award Horror in 2016. Now see, it's all the way at the bottom. So this one, like, has it really, 12,000 readers, has it really gone up that much above all of these other picks throughout the years? Like on my list, validly with 140,000 ratings and a 3.9. How is My Best Friend's Exorcism not on this list? It is on my list. It's a Grady Hendrix I quite enjoyed. I gave it a 4. It's about best friends and a possession. The movie has skewed it a little bit for me because I really hated the movie. I don't know why that one's not on here. I also would like to submit A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Mallerman because I will take any opportunity to talk about this novella. I thought it was perfect. It's about a couple on a first date and they become obsessed with this house underwater. It's cosmic, unexplained. I just thought it was so intriguing and uncomfortable, and that's kind of my vibe. I also put Mongrels on my list, another Stephen Graham Jones, of course. It's definitely in line with other Stephen Graham Jones where it's like not really scary werewolf horror, but it's more about the existential and the lore about a family of werewolves. And then I also put a YA on my list for lack of other options, and The Trees Crept In. This one I read, I feel like the longest to go of all of these picks, so I don't know if it holds up. It's written uniquely. There's like big bold words all over the page and things get really tiny, and it's about sisters who move into their aunt's like manor, and there's a creepy boy in the woods and the trees are getting closer, and I just thought it was very effective for what it was at the time, and I gave it a 4. So House at the Bottom of the Lake is actually my only 5-star from 2016. And now let me go back and count everything that I just went through. And the result is 51 of 80. So that is 63%. I did say I thought it'd be close to 70. This one's not really close to 70. It's closer to 60, but I feel good about that. There isn't too many here that are on my TBR that I'm like, oh my God, I should have gotten to this by now. Most of the ones that I've wanted to read, I have read. I stay on top of horror, but definitely I have gotten more and more in tune with my own tastes, and I'm not willing to just read something because it's popular, unless it's for a video, because then kind of anything goes. Hopefully this was valuable in some kind of way. If nothing else, we just got to hang out and chat about horror for a while, which I love to do. I will link below any other horror related things that I've done recently, vlogs, and that's pretty much all I do regarding horror is vlogs. Leave me a comment down below with what your favorite horror of the last 10 years is, because I just told you 80, well, almost 80 of mine. Anything recent, especially that you've been loving that you need to tell me about, would love to hear it. And I will see you later. Bye.